Lieutenant Governor Reynolds and I are also pleased to announce more Home Base Iowa Certified Higher Academic Military Partners, or CHAMPs, North Iowa Area Community College and Kirkwood Community College joining that group. So congratulations to these fine academic institutions as well. The city of Johnston is the first Des Moines area metro community to earn the Home Base Iowa designation. That makes sense with the strong leadership of Mayor Paula Darenfeld and the tremendous assets available at Camp Dodge for all branches of the service. In General Orr is here, as is Kathy Anderson from Home Base Iowa. So thank you. I'd like to personally congratulate all of you that have been involved in this. And we think it's great that the host of the Iowa National Guard's headquarters city is indeed a Home Base Iowa community. I also want to congratulate Dan Colhane and the entire Story County Home Base efforts for impressive results. Story County's incentives with up to $2,500 in relocation for qualifying veterans and the tremendous support of 70 businesses is an example for the future of other Home Base Iowa communities. So great work, Dan, and great work, Paula, and both of your communities. We're glad you're here this morning. Franklin County has also earned the Home Base Iowa designation with the creation of a $500 incentive for those working in Franklin County and $500 for living in Franklin County. Franklin County has also obtained the support of 87% of the businesses that have the potential to hire in their county. Muscatine County's efforts were led by the Muscatine Economic Development Department with strong support from Home Base Iowa with incentives offered by a wide range of businesses. Veterans will be very welcome in Muscatine County. We're proud of the progress that we're making with Home Base Iowa. In our earlier conversations, Major General Tim Orr, Lieutenant Governor Reynolds, Debbie Durham, and I all thought this had great potential, but it has well exceeded what we thought it could be. Our first task, of course, was to get strong bipartisan support in the legislature to show that Iowa is truly a military-friendly place. And the Iowa legislature responded by passing with a almost unanimous vote in both houses the Home Base Iowa program. And I had the distinct honor of signing it last year on Memorial Day at Camp Dodge in the Gold Star Museum in my uniform. And I'm ready to wear the uniform again on Memorial Day at Camp Dodge. So those statewide incentives for veterans put Iowa on the national radar. Iowa has been named a top military state by the Military Officers Association of America. And just last week, Iowa received another award, this time from the American Legion for Home Base Iowa efforts. General Orr, thank you for going and accepting that award on behalf of the state. It's clear that Iowa and Home Base Iowa program is rapidly becoming a national model for the way veterans should be treated, and we couldn't be more pleased to have Iowa in that position. We started off well. More importantly, there's a growing list of, in addition to the growing list of awards, the bottom line is we have employed over 1,300 veterans since we started this program. So we're really proud of 1,300 people finding jobs in Iowa as a result of Home Base Iowa. And I want to say again, I appreciate the bipartisan support we received in the legislature. And I want you to know that the co-chairs, former Congressman Boswell and Bob Meyer, the CEO of Casey's General Stores, has gotten over $1 million in pledges from private sector businesses and individuals. And we're asking the legislature to partner with them with a $500,000 appropriation. So we're hopeful that can get approved before the legislature adjourns. And now I'm really proud to turn the program over to my partner, the Lieutenant Governor, Kim Reynolds, who just returned from a successful trade mission to Brazil. Kim?
Well, good morning, and thank you, Governor Branstad, and it is good to be back in Iowa. I also want to say thank you to all attending today's recognition of our new home-based Iowa communities, as well as our home-based Iowa champs. We're tremendously proud of our Iowa communities and our academic institutions who have really put in the hard work to not only attract but retain service members for aggressively taking on our workforce challenges. I also want to take this opportunity to highlight a couple of exciting opportunities the program has through relationships developed at our nation's military installations. The first is an opportunity Home-Based Iowa has in collaboration with Iowa's William Penn University at Fort Hood in Texas. This is a 2-day effort that will take place on May 19th and the 20th. And the first day will include in-depth career assessment, resume assistance, and mock interviews. And this is all designed to help assist transitioning service members in landing great opportunities after their service. It will help them make connections with Iowans as well as Iowa businesses. A whole team of representatives from Iowa companies, including Mid-American, Amir, as well as Nationwide, as well as representatives from William Penn University, Home-Based Iowa, the Iowa Area Development Group, and Iowa Workforce Development will be on site for the 2-day visit. On the second day, Iowa companies are going to be participating in a career event where it's anticipated there will be about 5,500 to 6,000 service members attending the career event. Home-Based Iowa is also in discussions regarding additional innovative career and hiring opportunities at Fort Bragg in North Carolina, as well as Fort Benning in Georgia. So we're excited about the awards and the recognition that Home-Based Iowa has received, but we're most proud, as the governor indicated, about the number of hires, 1,300, that we've been able to match up with a great job right here in the state of Iowa with just in the program for a little under a year. We're also eager to see how Home-Based Iowa can continue to grow as we strive to be the state of choice for military members and families. Iowa's amazing statewide support demonstrates every day that this is the right program in the right state. And with that, we would be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Kathy Anderson, who's in charge of the program, I'm going to ask her to respond to that. Kathy?
We track the hires through two different mechanisms. One is those jobs pledged through the Iowa Business Council companies. So as you might remember, when this was announced, the Iowa Business Council companies pledged 2,500 jobs for veterans through 2018. So each one of those companies are tracking those jobs in addition. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is through the Home-Based Iowa website, military members have an avenue where they can essentially raise their hand, submit a resume, and ask for help with that matching. So that 1,300 number comes from both of those, through the Home-Based Iowa site and through those Iowa Business Council companies. No, those are tracked through jobs. I don't have it broken out by in-state. Those who have had
Both.
It's both.
It's both.
Well, one of the reasons why we're going to Fort Hood and Fort Bragg and Fort Benning is we're calling on people coming out of the service and making them aware that these jobs are available in Iowa. Now, we have all kinds of anecdotal information about people, frankly, who chose to stay in Iowa because we made the changes we did, as well as people that have moved here. But we don't have that broken down, what percentage.
Well, I would say we need to start a little bit further back in terms of Iowa needs to as competitive as possible just to keep our Iowa folks to move back here. And one example of that is as I was meeting with folks last week at military installations, I happened to meet up with folks from Iowa who had some affiliation with Iowa. They didn't grow up here, but they had moved here, been here at one time. And so they're looking at options all over the country. So whether they've had an Iowa affiliation at some point in the past, we need to be just as competitive to make sure our Iowa folks are coming back. Those maybe who grew up here, maybe spent a year here at some point. That would be a little bit impossible to track.
General Moore is going to respond to it as well.
A big piece of the home-based Iowa program is what we call the service member for life, or you hear soldier for life. That we were talking the Army. Many of the men and women were attracted. And our goal is to bring them back and get them into the Iowa National Guard, because for many of them, they're not retired. They have 8, 9, 10 years of service. So we, since home-based Iowa, and even before home-based Iowa, because of these incentives, we're averaging right now about 10 soldiers, service members that are coming off active duty that are continuing service in Iowa. That's one of the reasons why we're out going to all the major active duty installations in the country, because we think it's important that we have skill sets here that not only for their civilian, but for their military aspect. And many of them would like to finish their careers out, do those 8, 9 years and get to retirement and add value to, in our case, the state of Iowa. So we are tracking those. I track those internally from the Iowa Guard. We know what goes into the Air Guard, the Army Guard, and we're having great success with that. When you look at an enlistment of 90 a month, and 10 of those are coming off active duty, that says that we're getting a pretty fair share of recruits every month, hard because of the home-based Iowa effort.
Is to match the private sector fundraising that former Congressman Boswell and Bob Meyer have been doing in the private sector as part of the marketing of this program. So it's marketing money to assist and make it truly a public-private partnership. It's been a great public-private partnership. Both former Congressman Boswell and Bob Myers have given a lot of their time. I personally made some calls as well on this to raise private money, but I think it makes sense. The legislature's been a great partner in approving this, and we're asking them to provide a modest appropriation to also continue the momentum. Other questions? You can. I would say also, if you want to ask questions of the communities, I'm sure that they'd be willing to respond as well. If not, we'd be glad to take questions on other subjects as well this morning. Yes, Bill. Oh, yes. Well, first of all, I've got to say, Ed Stanek came to me and said, Governor, if you change your mind and decide to approve the lottery, I'll run it for you. You'll never have to worry about its integrity. And I think between Ed Stanek and Terry Rich, we've had great leadership. And as you know, there is a prosecution going on right now of somebody that tried to cheat. And we have had other minor incidents, but we have had an honest, clean, efficient, well-managed lottery. The majority of Iowans appreciate the opportunity to play. Those of us that don't want to, don't have to. So I think the lottery is an example of efficiently well-managed operation, and I want to commend both Ed Stanek and Terry Rich for the leadership they've provided, and also the citizens that have served on that commission. I'll never forget Monroe Colston. You may recall, Monroe Colston was African American who was involved with the Chamber of Commerce here in Des Moines, and I asked him to be one of the first members of the Lottery Commission. We have a very strict law that says that if no member of your family can play the lottery or win the lottery if you are in any way involved as an employee or even on the commission as a citizen. So I called him again after he'd served a term and said, Monroe, I'd like to reappoint you. And he said, Governor, he said, I really enjoyed serving, but my wife Frances would really like to play the lottery. So I respectfully declined to be reappointed. And, you know, Monroe has since passed away. He also received the Glanton recognition at Des Moines University. And Frances continues to be a very dear friend of mine. She served on the actually on the corrections board. And every time I see Frances, I tease her, you know, you haven't won the lottery yet. So far, she still hasn't won it. But, you know, it's been well managed. But let me just continue to say, we've got to continue to be vigilant. When you have this kind of money at stake, and you look at what happened in other states, you know, you can go around the country and you see it. Right next door in Illinois, where they've had a lot of corruption involved with gambling, and they've had it in places from Arizona to New Jersey to South Carolina. So you've got to be careful and vigilant, and that's why it's so important that we have strict laws and rules, and that we adhere to them, and that we carefully investigate any possibility of wrongdoing. Yes, and I would point out on major pieces of legislation, oftentimes they don't pass until the end of the session. You may recall 2 years ago, we passed education reform, property tax relief, and our Iowa Health and Wellness Plan. They all were approved in the last week of the session. This bill passed with strong bipartisan support in the Senate, 43-7. It passed the House last year. In fact, we think it's critically important that the legislation be approved this year, and I'm very optimistic. And I think there's broad bipartisan support for it among the people. I'm especially proud of the way the students have stepped up and provided leadership, support from teachers and administrators and parents throughout the state. And I'm very hopeful that it will be approved by the General Assembly. Well, I think parents should be notified, and I think there may be rare cases where an exception to that might be appropriate, but I think as a general rule, parents of both the student that's being bullied and the suspected bully should be notified. Well, I hope that administrators will take the responsibility seriously and recognize it is the intent to involve the parents and the parents are important players in dealing with this issue. So I just think it's critically important that we have action this year, and that we need to get this anti-bullying bill. We have had 2 anti-bullying summits that have been well attended, I think by over 1,000 people each. We've had, Lieutenant Governor and I have been, you know, we've been to Sioux City, and we've been to Northland, and we've been to Marshalltown. We've seen programs that are being put in place. There is a pilot program here for student mentors, and we visited schools like Algona and right, and we visited the school up in northwest Iowa, and I want to say it's in O'Brien County. That Grimgar, I think it was at Grimgar. Yeah, but so there's a lot that students in schools are doing, but we think having a statewide program that assures that when there is a problem, there is a responsibility to address it. So if there's a complaint filed by a student or parents, there will be investigation and follow-up. Well, first of all, um, I know it's a delicate thing between the House and the Senate. Last year, it passed both House and Senate in different forms, but they never agreed upon it. So we'd prefer to have the Senate pass bill, which got great bipartisan support, passed 43-7, approved by the House. But I do respect the legislative process, and I think they just need to debate it and give the members a chance to vote on it, because it's critically important that the students of Iowa have the protection they need. A lot of kids are being bullied, and now this happens on social media as well as school buses and on the school grounds and things like that. So it does affect their performance at school. Yes, we want to see it's on the unfinished business calendar. It's eligible till the end of the session. We want to see it debated and approved. Well, I know the legislative process, and I know that when they bring a bill up, they have to debate amendments as well. But I'm just saying that this is an important enough issue that it needs to be addressed. And I respect the legislative process, but I do believe that we've been working on this for a long time, and we need to address it this year. Higher education, your regents, yeah. Well, oh, wait a minute. Conference committees can make big changes, and it's not over till it's over. And I would point out that the Board of Regents put a tremendous amount of time and effort into developing a new system, which hadn't been addressed for about 40 or 50 years. I believe it's time that we have a performance-based system that treats all of our universities fairly. And I know that the regents made amendments to their performance-based proposal at the request of the University of Iowa faculty that felt there should be more consideration given for graduate education and for research. And so I think just saying that we're not going to address an issue that's long overdue. I know there's a lot of people afraid of change, but Iowans do like to see progress and improvements and a better way of doing things. And so I'm on the side of progress and improvement, and consequently, I'm very hopeful that when this bill gets worked out in conference committee, it will be addressed in a way that, first of all, maintains the tuition freeze. Secondly, adopts the new funding formula that the regents have recommended, as well as providing the funding that's needed for higher education, not just universities, but also the tuition grant, community colleges, and others. Well, the regents have promised the universities that the savings can be reinvested to strengthen the academic performance at the universities. And the increase that they're asking for is pretty modest. So I have recommended the level that is in my budget, which is consistent with the regent's request. We intend to spend a lot of time with them, trying to work out those differences. For a long time, neither the House or Senate had set their own budget targets. As I pointed out, I made my recommendations back on the second day of the legislative session, and I recommended a biennial budget based on 5-year projections that are sustainable for the long term. And that's the way, the lens by which we're going to look at all of these proposals. But I intend to work with them and make You know, and we respect the fact that the legislative process means that we're not going to get everything as we recommended it precisely, but it does need to fit within the framework that is sustainable for the long term. And I believe that it needs to be a 2-year budget. So we don't go through the fight like we've had this year on supplemental state aid. I want to see it set for both years, so we don't go through that fight again next year. We can focus on important policy issues to make Iowa better and more competitive. Well, I'm not going to pass judgment on anybody. I do respect that there's a lot of concern about the budget situation facing the state. You know, farm income is projected by the USDA to be down 32%. We're now facing this bird flu epidemic, which obviously is going to have some impact on the state. And so I think we have to be cognizant of that as we work to put together a budget that's sustainable for the long term. Thank you.